Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. Committee members and members of the public may attend this meeting in person or remotely. Every effort will be made to ensure that those attending remotely can access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is recorded by the Berkshire Edge, by the town of Great Barrington, and by CTSB. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. So let's start with approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the Select Board special meeting on January 31st, the meetings from the Select Board and Finance Committee joint meetings on February 6th and 7th, and the Select Board regular meeting on February 12th.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Select Board's announcements or statements, Ben?
Nothing.
Eric?
Nothing for me today. Thank you.
Lee?
One thing, I wanted to thank the W.E.B. Du Bois Legacy Committee. I'm very proud to be the Select Board liaison, and everyone did such an amazing job. We had a whole week of festival celebrations, culminating at the Macedonia Baptist Church on Sunday. I was able to, I think, attend maybe 3 or 4 events. We had one element of an event on Saturday that we broke bread with the Haitian community, which is very, very moving, and just a wonderful festival. And, kudos to everyone involved. It was really, really something. So I look forward to seeing many more of these. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, especially to Gwendolyn Van Sant, who really was heroic in her efforts. So just wanted to give a shout out.
Okay, nothing for me. Town manager's report.
Thanks, Steve. The update I have to share tonight is that our consultants, DPC Engineering, and this is on the Housatonic Waterworks topic, they're off and running with our financial study of the water system. We have a request into Housatonic Waterworks for updated data at this time, since the last time we collected data was 2021, when we were studying the system and its capital needs at that time. 2023, or their 2023 returns should be submitted to the DPU shortly, so we'll have access to that information as well. So we're making some progress, but I still don't have an update on the timeline yet, so I'll share that as soon as I have one. And I do have one unanticipated update to add on tonight, and that's that our independent investigation into the town's role in response to the December 8th complaint regarding a teacher and a reading resource at the Du Bois Middle School is also underway at this time. I hired Comprehensive Investigations and Consulting LLC. They're a Greater Boston firm specializing in investigations for local and state agencies as of Friday. So we're in the process now, providing them with all the information that they need. And I expect that their report will be shared publicly and with the board as soon as it's completed.
Thank you. New business. Host community agreement with Midori's Garden for a marijuana manufacturing establishment at 920 Main Street.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We got Chris up here?
It's Chris's panel now.
Okay, good.
Hi, everybody. Chris is here.
Perfect. Okay,
So you have a copy of the proposed post-community agreement in your packet for this evening, as well as an application for the post-community agreement from Mickey for Midori's Garden. Mickey, did you want to say anything?
I don't have anything to say. It seems like is pretty limited how varied the host community agreement could be based on the CCC's recent regulations. So we tried to put that together, craft the agreement based on what the rules were. And then they released a draft a draft version that was recommended for the towns right when we had already finished our draft and signed it. But if you review the example versus what we have, I think the select board would prefer what we already have because that's in line with what the select board, I guess, is doing with other cannabis companies. So I think it should satisfy everyone. It didn't really feel like there was a much of an option for variety to do anything else though. So if you have any questions, I'm open.
David's reviewed this copy and approved.
Okay.
do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the host community agreement with Midori's Garden for a marijuana manufacturing establishment at 920 Main Street.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Mickey.
Best of
Thank you
luck.
very much.
Recommendation to the zoning board of appeals on the special permit application from the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Freedom and Democracy for the restoration and exterior alterations of the non-conforming structure at 9 Elm Court in the Village Center Overlay District, including consideration of use alteration of a portion of the townway on Elm Court. Come on up, introduce yourselves.
Evening, is there a preference that we speak to you and present from here or at the?
I think you can sit right there and everyone should hear you. If someone has trouble hearing remotely, I'll let you know and we'll move, but I think this will pick you up just as well.
All right, that's great, thank you. Well, welcome, and thank you to the select board for hosting this application here tonight. My name is Nick Arianti, and I am counsel for the applicant here, who is the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Freedom and Democracy. I just wanted to introduce a few of the representatives of the project who are here. First and foremost, sitting right next to me is the Freedom Center's new executive director, Nye Whitaker. So she is happy to be here, obviously interested in the project for obvious reasons, and I will make comments as appropriate tonight, okay? We also have Eugenie Sills, project manager here on behalf of the center, and a couple of representatives of our project team. That's Steve Mack from Foresight Design is back here as well. And we have Glenn Gopal, who is representing Clark Green and Beck, our architect, as well as Mr. Beck, who is right here as well. So without any further ado, I know that there's been a significant amount of information, in fact, a lot of it that's been submitted in conjunction with this permit application. So hopefully you've read certain aspects of it. If you got through the whole memo and all the paper, congratulations. Thank you for taking the time and care to reading it. I can assure you that you know, every word was arrived at with a lot of thought and care to hopefully explain the project to you and everybody else who's relevant. So we're for you tonight here seeking a recommendation from the select board supporting the special permit application to the zoning board of appeals. Rather than me going through all that memo, wanted to be able to hit a few high points and express to you the things that we think are most important for you all to know when you're contemplating what this project is and whether it's appropriate for recommendation. Once I have hit my points, I'm going to introduce Steve Mack to go over some of the site aspects, and then Glenn Goble to go through some of the architectural aspects. And again, what's important and what we want to point out to you that you should be thinking about and considering when you're considering our request for approval, okay? All right, so with regard to the Du Bois Freedom Center project. It's a project that honors Great Barrington's Black history. The center's efforts to transform the historic Clinton AME Zion Church into an African-American cultural heritage center began in late 2016. So this has already been a project that has endured a lot of planning and a lot of preparation. And that was after the vacant deconsecrated church was put up for sale by the Northeast AME Zion Conference. The project itself is part of a national movement to save historic Black places. And will return this important historic building, which is actually active for an extremely long period of time from 1887 until most recently 2014. And we'll bring it back to the center of community life in this area and certainly within Great Barrington, okay? The site itself is on the National Register of Historic Places currently. Project aligns with the town of Great Barrington's strategic goals. The plans for adaptive reuse of this historic property align closely with the town of Great Barrington's community preservation plan by restoring a historically significant site, by revitalizing the deteriorated downtown buildings, and drawing local residents and tourists to the downtown area, and particularly for the purpose of visiting this site. As a historic preservation project, the center advances core initiatives in the town's master plan by protecting our community character, by enhancing our neighborhoods, and by promoting redevelopment of our village centers. Additionally, as a cultural and economic resource in Great Barrington's downtown, the center supports the vision of the town's master plan, which as articulated as an embrace of people of many ages, incomes, and ethnicities that calls for history, walkable neighborhoods, and vibrant village centers. Okay, the project has strong backing and support. It's received widespread community support here locally and more than 24 grants from public and private sources to fund design and construction eventually. The center has worked closely with the Massachusetts Historical Commission at all stages of the design process, dating back to 2017. All design and construction work is being done in accordance as well with the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. Finally, the center is an important economic resource for Great Barrington, has already brought in millions of dollars in new funding that will benefit the town and the Berkshires through realization of this project. Once open to the public, the center is poised to continue contributing to the local economy by attracting visitors to visit this center and spend money both at the center and in the local community. So this is when I'd like to have Steve Mack come up and talk about the project. I'm going to move off. And you know, if it works, we'll do questions following our presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Mack from Foresight Land Services. And we are the civil site engineers for the project. From an existing conditions point of view, the property is located within the B2 general business zoning district and is also in the village center overlay district. The existing site requirements in that zoning district, and I'll just go through them really quickly, require 5,000 square feet of land area. Our existing parcel is 4,883 square feet, so we're non-conforming with respect to area. The front yard setback requirement is 25 feet and we're 23.7 feet. So we're also non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback. The side yard setback is 10 feet. On the north of the property, we are 1.8 feet from the property line. And on the south of the property, we're 5.3 feet from the property line. So again, non-conforming with respect to side yard setback. And rear yard requirement is 10 feet and we're 4.6 feet. So very, very small, tight site, pre-existing non-conforming with respect to lot area, front yard setback, side yard setback, and rear yard setback. The parcel doesn't have any existing on-site parking. All existing parking is limited to just a few spaces on Elm Court and then off-site municipal parking. The parcel does have municipal water and sewer, so we'll be using that, and it's been historically served by overhead electric, cable, telephone, etc. There's no areas subject to the Wetlands Protection Act within the jurisdiction of this property. There's no floodplain, and there's no endangered species mapped on this property. Essentially the building, you can see the rectangle there, sits on the site, and the rest of the site is just short, sort of mown grass at this point existing. So the proposed site, next slide, suggests a variety of improvements. And I'll just start by talking about traffic and access. Because there's no parking requirements in the B2 zoning district and there's no parking on the site now, we're proposing to direct visitors to the site to municipal parking lots. So the majority of the traffic to the site will be pedestrian. There's existing sidewalk along Elm Court to the site, and it's handicap accessible and usable. So the main traffic on the parcel will be pedestrian. If there's groups, they'll be dropped off in a bus or whatnot. The bus will be directed to the municipal lot to park off-site. Utilities are proposed to be buried instead of the overhead. The overhead's been removed in the past, but the proposed electric, et cetera, will be buried from Elm Court. Water and sewer will be reconnected to the existing mains on the street. They're suitable and adequate for water and sewer usage. In our report, we did some rough numbers, just comparing it to the pre-existing use versus the proposed use. There is an increase in water and sewer usage of about 1,400 gallons per day, which again, the water and sewer connections are suitable for that increase. Stormwater management. The site is served by municipal drainage, so you can see some of the lines out on Elm Court are existing underground drainage. We've camera inspected the underground drainage to ensure that it's not broken or crushed or displaced. It's in good condition. So we are proposing to reconnect to that existing drainage and do a significant amount of planting. As you can see, this plan shows the proposed planting plan, which is a pretty big increase from the existing sort of mowed lawn area. So the new plantings will really help minimize any stormwater impacts. We are removing portions of the building. We're also removing some of the elements that will help stormwater. Let's see, next slide. So this slide shows the new entry court on the north side of the parcel. And this new entry sequence was derived from numerous alternatives analysis. There was tremendous amount of constraints, as we just talked about with the site. It's very, very tight, and there's not a lot of space. So we looked at entering the site on the main level, which you can see on the right where the door is up about 4 to 4.5 feet from the street level on the north. Doing that would require a handicap ramp over 60 feet long with switchbacks and landings, and there just isn't room. It would look terrible on, we looked at entering the building from different areas. There just wasn't any room. So, taking in sort of site disturbance, regulations, handicap accessibility, et cetera, architectural, which Glenn will talk about in a second, this solution was really deemed as a really good solution, taking all of the factors into account. It does remove a short section of sidewalk, which is where the green space on the right is shown right now. And if that's where the trees are, does everybody know where that section is? Yeah. So in order to make this work and keep the site disturbance to a minimum in that low wall on the right-hand side running into the page, we are proposing to remove that section of sidewalk and plant it with a vegetated planting strip, which would be a nice green buffer along the road, but it also accomplishes a few other goals. It keeps the wall there relatively low. At its highest point, it's about 2.8 feet in the very, very far back corner of that. And then as it comes out to the street, it really transitions from that 2.8 feet at about the midpoint level. It's about 2 feet tall, and then it transitions up to about 0 or 6 inches tall. If the sidewalk were to stay, that wall would have to be about 4 feet. The sidewalk pitches towards the road, so it's higher on the wall side. We would need a railing because the walls would be so tall that you need a railing. Right down there, they don't require a railing. So it'd just be a real barrier if we were to put a railing in, keep the sidewalk. This really makes the site much, much more aesthetically pleasing and solves a lot of other code issues as well. So that's why we're proposing that. Next slide. And then this image is from the front, the northeast corner of the building from Elm Court. And just, so I just thought the slide was important to explain like why this configuration was being proposed. And you can see the sort of thin green strip starting on the right-hand side coming up. That's proposed to be just a very gentle grass pathway that will allow people to access the front lawn area, which was historically a gathering space, to have people, socialize, et cetera. In order to do that, handicap accessibility wise, we have to keep that slope to a 5% to go to the new grade. And Glenn will talk a little bit about raising the building 2 feet because there's water issues, there's significant headroom issues in the basement, which has historically been used as a gathering space. I won't slip on his thunder, but that's why we're sloping up right there. So the walls in the front there on the right lower corner, just for visualization's sake, that's about 1.4 feet tall. So it's, pretty low. We're not talking anything too big. So that is generally the description of why we're proposing that configuration. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to Glenn to talk about architecture.
Thank you. So the building was originally even smaller than it is today. It consisted of the sanctuary, crawl space underneath. You could call the basement, it's very low. And there was a vestry and a pastor's office of that. That was added to at some point and converted into a parsonage. The parsonage, took over the vestry and the pastor's office behind the sanctuary, and they added a second floor for bedrooms and living space. So the pastor lived there. So the lower level of the building was dug out by the congregation at one point. And they went down as far as they could, but they hit the water table, so they couldn't go any deeper. They couldn't afford to raise the building. So, they ended up with a headroom that was really not very high. They still used it, and so it's one of the, important historic spaces in the building is that lower level. We, have followed, the idea that the historic church building is of great value, and if we were only preserving that, that would be a worthwhile goal. But we're doing more than that, and we want the building to not only be a memory of the history that was there and be informative, but to also continue that history as a center for advocacy and for thought and for community. So that is how we get to raising the building. The water table issue makes the headroom in that space. We can't go lower. So we got permission from Math Historic to raise the building 24 inches. And still have their blessing in doing the historic preservation. We're also raising the floor slab 6 inches because we want to make sure that we get that floor slab up out of the water. And we're putting a drainage system under it. So the lower level will be a usable space. It won't be a grand space, but it'll still be a usable space and left room for mechanicals and ductwork and things that we need. Well, let's see, just walk through the plan, I guess. Once you come down the sloping pathway to the entry, there's an addition which incorporates a stair in the elevator and a new little entry lobby. This addition is very important because the building needs to be universally accessible. It needs to not divide people into categories of ability or any other categories, really. And to do that, we need to have everybody come in the same door. Now, once you get in the building, of course, some people need the elevator. Some people can take the stairs. But the elevator and the stairs always drop people off at the same place. So everyone is following the same path through the building. Coming in the lower level allows us to experience the building more fully. What I started to say earlier about the building itself being historic is that the building, the Clinton Church building, is really the primary historic artifact of the exhibition of history that will be there. The lower level was historically important. The sanctuary and historic, main level of the parsonage was important, and the upper level of the parsonage is historically important. So we want you to be able to experience that whole building. Starting at the bottom allows you to come into the building, become oriented, and then go up through the building, to rise up through the building. So that's what the addition allows you to do. You come into a lobby space, the elevator and the base of the stair right there. There's, a small counter to greet you. People will be there also to provide information for other historic sites on the African American Heritage Trail. There might be a little section of gifts, little gift shop, and of course, where you buy tickets. Now, to the right as you come in, there's a couple of bathrooms, and then you come into a multi-purpose community room with a small kitchen. There's always a kitchen down there, and I think that will be an important continued use. So then you rise up the next level. The main level, you arrive in a gallery space that used to be the historic parsonage and vestry. And there'll be exhibition space to inform, well, there'll be exhibitions to inform you of the use of that space. But then you turn and you go back into the sanctuary. And that's really the primary exhibition space where there'll be a series of movable pylons or exhibition cabinets that can be arranged and configured in different ways, but then can also be moved into places at the side of the room. And the space can be used as a gathering space. So, we can have chairs for meetings, concerts, speeches, lectures, that kind of thing. The front entrance is remaining, but it's really remaining more as an exit than as an entrance. It's important as the historic entrance. It's important as the public face of the building, part of its history, and welcoming people there. It's beautiful how they located it in the belfry, which is there to grab your attention architecturally and draw you in. But functionally at this point, it's really it's important to have it as an exit. So then the stair that leads to the upper floor is sort of down the bottom left-hand corner. And bottom left-hand. Yes, there. So that takes you up to the upper floor, which is an office area, but it's also got a small space with an oral history recording studio where people can not only experience this whole building and that history, but they can add their own stories to it. So it's a place where people, after having reflected on this experience, can give their own experience and add that to that history. And we feel that's a very important use of this upstairs space. And it's the perfect culmination to your experience as you walk through the building. So the building is being raised 24 inches, but we didn't want to have 4 feet of foundation exposed out there, and National Historic doesn't want us to have that either. So to maintain the historic character of the building and its presence on the site, we decided to raise the grade around it up to try to maintain that level of foundation. To do this, because of the constricted nature of the site, we need some low walls that we're proposing right now that they be dry laid stone walls, something that's very typical of New England towns and of this, there's one right around the corner of the street, actually. This little sloping path in the front is a 1 to 20 slope. That means that it's not a ramp. It's not a handicap ramp. It doesn't require handrails. Not only that, but it's the primary way that everyone goes up. So we're not dividing people into steps and ramps. If you could go to the next slide. The main entrance, we're using these walls to draw you in to, after you've seen the historic face of the building and preserved that as, as a memory and an introduction. We're drawing you into what is actually now the primary entrance to the building. So the stone walls are creating that path. The walls on the left-hand side, again, are a little bit taller. They're retaining the earth to keep that level of foundation the same as you descend. And the wall on the right is high enough where we can retain a gentle slope back up to the level of the street. And that's why we're proposing to remove the sidewalk, because the sidewalk, of course, can't have that kind of a slope. And keeping the sidewalk level, as Steve said, requires a much taller retaining wall that would require a railing, and would really just change the character of the neighborhood and place and would just feel, I think, out of place. So next slide. So once you reach the bottom of the slope, there's, very clear entrance. The entry itself is glass on 3 walls. It's important that it be glass on 3 walls because you are always looking through the glass on the other side. So the glass remains fairly transparent. You don't get the solid opaque reflections that you might get if we only had 2 or 1 wall of glass. And that transparency really allows you to see the historic building and to understand what was the limits of the building before we had to add the addition. The addition is also making it very clear that functionally it's a stair. It's not part of the historic fabric of the building. It's differentiating itself to make it clear what that history is and what is the new part of the building. And then the elevator tower is the elevator tower. We're proposing to have that, feel like a continuous element that reflects this idea of rising up through the building. And that projects the fact to everyone that this is a universally accessible structure, that everyone's welcome. And that if you come in, you can see the whole thing. And I believe that this one. Oh, right. Right where the little bar of icons is, the window in the dormer. One caveat to this is that we are looking at the geothermal as a heating and cooling system. The wells would, be in the front lawn, but they'll be, below the level, so it's still going to be a useless space. However, we will not really know if that's going to work until they get out there and drill a test hole. And it's got to be a very deep one. If we can't do the geothermal system, we will probably have a mechanical unit that will need to go on the roof of the addition. Yeah, behind a screen that will screen for noise and be a more visually attractive screen than just seeing a mechanical unit. Because of the constraints of the site, there's nowhere else to put it. So with that.
This is what's in the package for that reason.
Concluded our part, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, well, thank you, both Steve and Glenn. At this point, I think we're happy to answer any questions that the board might have, and provide as comprehensive responses as we can.
Go ahead, William, in there.
Just real quick, what's the sliver of grass where you're proposing to take the sidewalk out? What's the measurement of that? The width, what's the width of that patch of grass? The buffer, what is?
5 to 6 feet.
5 to 6 feet of buffer. Okay.
Eric?
Yeah, just a few questions, more for my curiosity than anything else, I think, but the mechanical unit that you would be screening in on the top, are we discussing like a heat pump, or what kind of mechanical unit are we talking about?
Yeah, it would be a heat pump, but it would really be air conditioning. Rather than be sized for the whole building, heating and cooling. I think
Rather than being sized, so all the other mechanicals would be inside,
yes.
along with the geothermal, if that works out.
Yes, the great thing about the geothermal wells is that we could eliminate that unit and we wouldn't have, any exterior.
Yeah. And then the other thing, back to like what Lee was talking, and I think you mentioned it, but I might have just missed it, but that patch of grass from the wall to the roadside there, how pitched is that?
It varies depending on,
It's pitched from the road down to the wall. I guess I was
Right.
wondering what that slope was.
In the proposed condition, it's variable, but
Hmm.
it's roughly dropping 2 to 2.5 feet and that 6 feet on the far end. And then it flattens out more as you come towards the east part of the site.
Yeah.
So we're dropping down, trying to minimize the height of that wall.
Yeah, so it slopes down pretty significantly.
It's like a 3 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
it was, you might have, I don't know if we stated, but the site actually has a natural slope up
Mhm.
from the east to the west.
Yeah.
And it's about 3 feet. So even though our sloping path is only going down 2 feet.
Yeah.
By the time you get there, the street has risen 3 feet. So,
Yeah.
that's why towards that northwest corner, that's really the space where the difference in those two makes a retaining wall.
And then I guess, this is probably a question for everybody, but it's, like, as far as the liability of that goes, since that was a sidewalk in town property, severe slope, wintertime, where's that liability fall if there happened to be somebody slipping on that slope and going down? You know what I mean? As far as, is there gonna be a transfer
Yeah.
of, since it's, of property, since that's
Right, so,
town property currently and?
and so this is part of the application package, included at exhibit 2 in the original memo as an attachment, included the draft license agreement between the center and the town. And also just for purposes of reference, that draft license agreement included as an exhibit a very specific and dedicated plan identifying exactly the location and the all of the dimensions of the town's kind of slice of this property.
Yeah.
And so the license agreement is proposed to do a few things. Obviously, it's subject to recommendation and endorsement by the select board. We have talked with our town administrator staff here over the last 7-8 months ago. But what is intended to do is to allow the center to improve and to use this area for the purposes of, landscape improvement without technical structural improvement, for the purposes that project envisioned. And to facilitate it and allow it to happen. Part of that is providing, insurance and representations about insurance for liability, public liability purposes and so forth. That it will not be, it will not be subject to liability on behalf of the town. So that is a provision in the license agreement. I know, because I've been a part of the communication and process, that town council has reviewed that draft license agreement. My knowledge at this point has been, approved, subject to items contemplation finally by the select board.
Yeah.
So it has been considered and, as far as we know, is acceptable as presented.
May I add one thing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It also allows us to take over the maintenance and to provide placemaking. So the transition, I think, enables us to create the space and maintain the space, as opposed to having two entities that would then have to contribute to its future maintenance. And I think that makes an important asset for the town and community, should that be considered. Thank you.
And I just wanted to make one follow-up point. It's the intention quickly, to request that the town enter into an agreement with the center for sale for reasonable value of this portion of land in order for the center to assume ownership, and obviously at that point, any and all liability with respect to the improvements thereon is the property. And that's something that we intend to introduce as soon as we can.
Yeah, I got a few more, but I just, whether it's somebody walking or a car on an icy day, that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to make, and I'm sure it's been all very thoroughly thought out, so I just figured I better bring it up.
And I know that Steve, sorry, one more point. On that point, I know that Steve Mack and probably Glenn can also, further articulate the fact that the area of the wall furthest toward the east, where there is the biggest or greatest, height, which is still not terribly high, but where there is some additional height. The plantings in that area are intended to be more substantive. They're not just aesthetic. They serve a functional purpose of providing a barrier and ensuring that, it's not as if you're not gonna be able to just, walk through a couple of flowers and hop over the wall.
Yeah.
The plantings are intended to help offset not only, any water that would come down there and provide, a solid base for, that portion of the soil on the ground, but to act as a barrier and an impediment to access at that location.
Yeah.
So the shrubbery there really serves functional purposes, and obviously it adds to the aesthetic, reduces what is now voluminous, widespread, hardscape out there.
Yeah.
We have looked at the entire area in this neighborhood. It's covered with asphalt, concrete. It's in poor condition. Frankly, most all of it. And, the intent is to create, as I referenced, placemaking, and this is a place that's intended to be welcoming. It's intended to not have that institutional effect or highly structured effect. It's intended to be welcoming, it's intended to be inviting. And this is an important aspect of that design that helps to tie in the entirety of the site. Sorry, this long-winded explanation, but it helps to give some insight as to how the entry point, the aesthetic, serve not only an aesthetic purpose, but also very much a functional value to allow the building to serve its exact purpose.
Yeah. So then just, if you guys don't mind me, a
No.
little bit more, let me, just like the total capacity of the building, like, so if you have a big event, just the number of occupants that can be in there, do you know that?
That's more, there's probably things in there.
Yeah, we'll come back to.
Yeah, that's, yeah, and then.
Yeah, go ahead.
The former sanctuary will hold 75 to 100, depending on what is completed, but it's got the visual lecture and chairs, that's about the capacity.
Yeah.
The capacity for the whole building, the way the program is designed, we're essentially below the capacity, for building code and for, fire code.
Yeah.
And we provide those.
Yeah, just curious, because it looks like a big space, so, and then, I mean, yeah, it is, yes.
And I just would add that, we've already had conversations with several of the other nonprofit organizations in the community to partner with them for anything that we believe will exceed the capacity. So for example, this past Thursday, when we had our reception, we partnered with St. James First. And so, we are going to be very mindful of using it in a way that it was originally used, but knowing that it's a small but mighty space.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to point out is that what we are adding is it's all circulation space. We're not adding additional space that would increase the occupancy from the historical.
And then just when you were saying like bus trips or Greyhound, somebody shows up, is there, what would be the plan? A park on the side street or just exit people, or are you gonna, I just was wondering if a bus pulls in there.
This is a dead end street.
Right, that's it. Just wondering the general thoughts on that. That's,
So we typically have parking, we've arranged in the past for parking offset because we've had tourists coming over the last 6 or 7 years. And weekend, more tends to be arranged for us to have the students dropped off, in the parking lot behind town hall. And they
Yeah,
walk to
and they just walking over.
West Fall
Yeah.
National Heritage Areas. We had 80 people come in a couple of groups, and we arranged with the First Congregational Church to have people dropped off in their parking lot until each bus is there. We split into 2 groups, came to outside and river walk, and then switched and came back. So we'll continue to make arrangements. You can't bring a bus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
For it. It's not a throughway, as you know.
Yeah.
So, we'll arrange for that and have on our website, like the Haiti does, a map of downtown and public parking.
Yeah.
spaces that are available.
And then just one last question for my own curiosity. I see on this one set of prints that it, for your pathways going down and stuff, you have, indicated, snow melting system. Is that, you gonna tie that in with the, geothermal, or is that like an electric heat plant?
Like it would be hydronic.
Yeah,
System.
Right.
Yeah. We can tie it.
yeah.
Do you- I'll go after that.
I was just curious, you said you may have to put an element on top of the building. Will that conform with anything else? Is it gonna look like a sort of thumb? Are you gonna make it look like it's gonna be part of the building?
Yeah, it will not be a sort of, but it will have to be a screen that allows airflow. So, you know, we can't increase the size of the building and put it inside. It has to be somewhere where it gets outside, free flow of air, so pretty cool the way it needs to. So it will be some attractive screen that will be keeping with the rest of the addition.
So just to clarify, because there have been concerns from some members of the community about losing a sidewalk, and I just, to reassure people that might be listening, if you could briefly talk about, the traffic that is usually on that street, the fact that it's a dead end, maybe, speak to about the pedestrians that would be, losing a sidewalk, where they are expected to go without a sidewalk, just to kind of calm some nerves and concerns about that, because I think people don't realize, the nature of the street. So if you could just maybe address that.
Yeah, sure. So I have observed intentionally numerous times the traffic on court just to sort of scope it out. And I'm not sure if a car has gone past me anytime I've been out there observing the traffic. And I totally them 6 times. So every pedestrian that's been on that street when I was out there is walking on the road. Really, in my observations, half a dozen trips out there specifically to do that. So
Thank you. Yeah, that has been my observation, but I felt that we should get that into the record. Thank
May
you.
I just add that in the reimagining of the space, we're also trying to keep to what it would have been in the past. So if we think about someone who was coming in 1887, even though we know that the town has made this investment, it's why we've done the research to have these conversations, so how can we return it to the place that it was? So that when someone comes and enters it from a point of reflection, we transition from the hardness of the outside into the learning environment, the peace, the community of the inside. And so we've been very, very thoughtful about what this means and how it will impact. And I will say, just today we were there and everyone was walking in the street, whether they were walking their dogs or walking with them. And so we've been studying it via drone and other opportunities to see what the use is right now vis-a-vis the town. And those who are living on the block, who will visit the block, to really make sure that we were deeply aware of how we can do this in a way that is respectful of those who visit and those who live there.
And I think we just wanted to put some additional context to the sidewalk. Point out some additional context to the sidewalk. We understand that obviously, we've already got the improvement, but some. It's important to note that during the 137 years that this building, you can see them as being sidewalk is relatively deeper, and there was no sidewalk plan and the upper bus just less than 2 years ago. And we were turning the plan to kind of deal with it, and then we'll carry the sidewalk and stuff. So with history,
prioritize. And reflects that. Not to get now on the amount that's safe or otherwise. Generally, it's not much about good. In this case, there's now to the extent that there is an intensity of very limited. For having this discussion, you want to make sure it's not being blocked.
That sidewalk is not connected to the other sidewalk. That's over any permanent or something.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the board?
Maybe
Yeah.
just a point for discussion, that's all. I guess I only bring up the things on the sidewalk for the most part. I walk that road all the time. And I personally have never stepped foot on that sidewalk either. But my concerns in the beginning were based on just, you never know what you see with accidents, and that's why I was concerned about the slope and cars, whether it's somebody accidentally thinking in their reverse, but they're in forward, or vice versa, coming out of that one parking spot, the house up the street. So that's why I was concerned about the pitch. I'm not so much personally concerned about the removal of the sidewalk for that reason, but it sounds like the liability stuff's all been thought out and approved by our lawyers, and obviously it's a beautiful site plan, so.
If I just may say that as the person who's given a lot of tours, most of the tours in the last 7 years, that when you give tours, whether it's 6 people or 40 people, people stand in the street. And I'm always getting on the foot saying that they move in. And I do think that the new entry port will in fact be safer because it will bring people when they're gathering and waiting for their group or listening into a space as well off to the street. And
So the select board has asked their questions. Is there anyone in the audience, whether virtually or in person, have any brief comments? Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Just introduce yourself, name and address.
Paul Ivory, I live on Grove Street. You did 85 decades. Good home. I want to speak in strong support of the program that you referred to GFC's was presented to preserve this landmark. And remove it as a museum program space. I've been a volunteer since its inception. And I have a perspective in looking at this organization. 50 years of working in historic preservation and museum fields, including a career with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and as a museum and historic preservation consultant. The UAME Church is a gem, and what these folks are doing to preserve it is wonderful. The church is a reality of the great Barrington African American history. It's a magnificent artifact with important architectural, religious, political, and social connections. Great Barrington is blessed with a fantastic catalog of historic assets. A couple of years ago, as chairman of the Historical Commission, we completed an historic resources survey of some of the sites in town, including Brooklyn, which is 90 of it. And that's just one small chunk of it, and I hope that the Historical Commission will continue with that project. But the historic sites give us our identity, they're important for the local economy, and it makes Great Barrington such a great place to live. And as a witness to this organization, the DFC has seen amazing success. They have good people, their planning has been textbook, and their fundraising is enviable. I do think with their planning, they've taken over the years and talking to people at the grassroots level and a variety of a range of planning sessions, they've been able to give this organization, the great direction that it's been following. I do think it will make a great case study at the Harvard Business School, the way they've done it. It's just been amazing. And what you see tonight with these this program and design as a result of professional level planning by a range of professional folks, architects, landscape designers, capital campaign consultants, architectural conservators, working with the Park Service and the Mass Historical Commission and so on. And CGV's design, I say ingenious for artfully fitting so much into such a small space and maintaining the historic fabric and design of the building is very well done. I was going to use the Dolly Parton's term about fitting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. They've done a magnificent job in fitting a program, translating the program into spaces. And I'm sure that this will be a destination site of public interest in African American heritage and W. Du Bois for many years to come. And I would like make one last comment on the sidewalk. I live on Grove and Warren Street, and 2 years ago, the town tore up all of our sidewalks and didn't replace them, and we used Grove and Warren as the walkway. So there's got to be some sort of precedent there. We appreciate your support in this project. These are good folks.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online? Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jean Conway, and I'm a resident of Bay Barrington. I've been here for 47 years. And I was also a member of the Clinton Old Zion Church for 30+ years. I was there until the church closed. And I listened to all the comments about the sidewalk. And all the years that I was there, the road was used for people walk, and they walk on the edge of the road, and the sidewalk was not there. But I'm supportive of this project because number one is personal feeling to me as well. Because Reverend Esther Dozier, this meant so much to her, this church. And the things we used to have to do just to keep the water out of the basement, pushing the water to the edge just to keep the floors dry. So this will be a great memories for her just to see this building. And I'm in support of this building. That's why you see me here every night that we have these meetings.
I see no one else. Do I have a motion?
It brings me personally great honor to make a recommendation that the select board vote to support the recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals on the special permit application from the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Freedom and Democracy for the restoration and exterior alterations of the non-conforming structure at 9 Elm Court in the Village Center Overlay District, including consideration of use/alteration of a portion of the townway on Elm Court.
Second. That's a positive recommendation. A second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Good luck.
I have one moment of comment.
Yeah, of
Just
course.
want to say thank you, but also just wanted to thank the town and the board. My recent appointment to the Legacy Committee. I look forward to working with you and the town to continue our celebration of Dr. Du Bois. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay. Okay, the meeting's still going on, so take your conversation in the hallway, please. Okay, next is the appointment to the Historical Commission. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Don Howe to the Historical Commission.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Welcome, you're here for the town historical artifacts disposal policy.
I am,
Hello there.
Malcolm Fick, 1 Maplewood Avenue in Barrington, and, you guys saw me, 10 months ago. When I came here and asked you to establish a policy dealing with disposal of artifacts, taking me 10 months to come back because you guys in your wisdom said, go back and bring something back.
Yeah, it's your idea. We told you to go right.
So, that's what, brought up, and, that's what we're presenting here. I think it's in your package.
It is.
Very simple policy, not to conflict with bylaw, not to conflict with any financial policies or procedures. Just to say if someone in the town, the town is disposing of a town artifact, that it should be cleared through the select board, and the select board should request opinion from the historical commission. And that will actually be for
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the town historical artifacts disposal policy as presented.
Can I second it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Second.
so it's a second. And go right ahead.
Discussion. I guess the wording of the policy in general kind of doesn't sit right with me, the historic artifacts disposal policy. And I was wondering if we can just remove disposal and add transferal. Because I mean, when I think of disposal, I think we're throwing it in the garbage, and it just doesn't sit right with me, and especially since just how this all started. I think we're just talking about transferring stuff to previous owners or, you know, other historical. Yeah, yeah.
It could be an exposure.
Right. Yeah.
Policy for disposal of assets.
Yeah.
But I agree that it's a better choice.
Yeah, if we can put that in.
Yeah,
there,
we can
I
change it.
know.
I'm sure, no, if no one objects, we'll just change it. Okay, anyone else?
Well, this stuff out, I missed it.
We're just doing the Great Barrington Select Board Historical Artifacts Transferal Policy.
Right, and should that, or did you?
We just changed the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked to remove disposal and call it transferal policy instead.
I can send that motion.
No, it's,
Okay.
it's a minor change, important.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thanks, Malcolm.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Malcolm,
it.
very much.
Shared Building Department Intermunicipal Agreement for Administrative Assistance Services. Might want to pair that name down.
So back in September, there is a copy of this draft agreement in the packet. Back in September of last year, as you probably recall, we entered into an intermunicipal agreement with the towns of Lee, Lennox, and Stockbridge to create a regional building department serving all 4 communities. Great Barrington was the lead town and currently employs 2 full-time building inspectors, with 2 more to be hired soon. And this agreement here, this evening in the packet is for the administrative assistance, the support staff for the department. And this time Lee, or the town of Lee, will be taking the lead as the employer. So this agreement also bases its funding contributions on the number of permits issued in the preceding year. So it should be a mirror image of the other intermunicipal agreement that we have for the inspectors. This agreement also has Great Barrington responsible for 39.6% this year of the budget, or $47,763, which is within the budgeted amount we had for this line. So I also wanted to mention, if you didn't have a chance to read through this agreement, that the administrative assistants, although there are only 2 and there are 3 towns noted in this agreement, they will be primarily working in Lee and Great Barrington. There's no physical presence in the Lennox, no regular presence in the Lennox town.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to accept this shared building department intermunicipal agreement for admin assistant services.
Second, discussion.
I just had a question. Is it going to be on a rotating basis who the employers will be? So we started off with Great Barrington, now it's Lee. Do you see that kind of rotating in terms of
Could.
taking the lead or?
We could revisit it at the end of the term.
Okay,
It does mean though that if we change the employee in town, all the benefits and everything, insurance, health insurance, everything would need to transfer. So it's not an easy task.
is there a reason why we went from Great Barrington to Lee being the lead or?
No, Greg Barrington's still the lead for the heads, the department heads. This is just for the.
Oh, just for the
assistant.
administration
Just the
and
support
Lee
staff.
is,
Yes,
I see.
we're sharing the wealth.
Yes,
Yes.
oh, okay, thank you.
So
Okay, so
rather
just for the
than-
min,
Yeah,
okay,
rather than us taking on all the employees, we're dividing it up. over-
Okay. thank you for that clarification.
Anyone else? All in favor?
All right,
Unanimous. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Briefly, in your packet and in the packet online was the town manager's performance evaluation. I'm not gonna read it for you. Anyone who wants to look at it can. It was an excellent evaluation by the 5 members of the board, and I appreciate their getting it done in a timely fashion. And usually this is the time of year we do it, and I think what it shows is reflects what a good job Mark has done and the rest of his administration, and I'd like to say thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, great job.
Thank you. I did take an opportunity this weekend to read through the scoring and read through the written comments, and I just wanted to mention, how much I appreciate your feedback and your kind comments. I'm really fortunate to have a supportive board and a supportive staff, and I, again, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Citizen speak time. Don't be shy.
I'm Cheryl there, 72 Business Street. As you know, normally I don't have any problem coming up here and speaking, but tonight I'm actually kind of sad that I'm here for you. As you're well aware, since September, I've been bringing up safety issues at the Division Street Bridge, including the crosswalk. With no response, I had to do a public records request, did not get the information I needed. Mr. Reed was there on site with me December 10th. After that visit, I didn't hear anything after that. Additionally, I have concerns about the railroad dumping on Barrington Road. I initiated an email December 7th, 2023 to Senator Mark and Representative Kelly with a copy to the select board members, except Mr. Elliott, because I did not have his email. Later you received it. I also sent information and photos to the press. I've repeatedly come before citizen speak, but because the matter exceeds 3 minutes, it's a general, if we're going to get into a discussion, we should really put it on agenda. So at the January 22nd, 2024 meeting, and for the minutes of that meeting, Michelle Rivera of 70 Division Street asked for a response / information on adding a crosswalk at the Division Street Bridge and expressed concerns about debris being left by the railroad on Vandersville Road. She asked that these items be added to a meeting agenda. Since that time, I haven't heard anything on that. So if I'm doing something that procedurally isn't correct, I'd like to know about it, because I hate to think of why it could be another reason why my concerns aren't being addressed. Now, if I have to submit a request in writing, I'll do it. But I should have been told that January 22nd.
You don't have to really
So I do think, as being a contributor to our community, serving, giving back to the town, being a lifelong resident, that at least the courtesy of some sort of response on both issues by this board. I'm really disgusted in our senator and our state representative right now. They didn't respond at all. But you tell me what I need to do to have a conversation regarding this.
You'll get a response from us.
What does that mean?
It's,
Is it going to be on an agenda and what?
I can't speak for the select board, but it takes, how we get on agendas, 3 select board members request it. So
Okay.
we haven't, right now, we've been with the budget and with other items.
And I
Yeah,
certainly understand
so,
that. I've been part of that
yeah,
process.
you've been at almost every meeting, so it's been a little bit busy, so we'll get to it.
All right, because I am really sad because I hate to see this board start going back to decades ago. Where you were in a position of citizen participation several years ago. And I'm seeing it fall by the wayside. And I'm really angry, and generally when I get angry, I hate to go to another level on this. And do I have to go and see a lawyer to have these things addressed? But like particularly, I spent the time, select board member Garfield Reed spent the time on December 10th in bad weather, looking at it and not to have any response after that. I'm pretty upset about that.
Thank you, Michelle.
I say thank you to you, but I'm not.
Well, I know. I see no one else. Select board time, Ben, Garfield,
Nothing, thank you.
Lee, and nothing. Media time. By unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.